clinical psychology, biological, psychological and social factors. मनसत्व biology और social सामाजिक factors. ICD used by WHO. Classification of disease including mental disorder. WHO. Classification of disease. Mental disorder current ICD-11. DSM version DSM-5P TR 2022. DSM stands for Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of a Mental Disorder. Diagnostics and Statistical Manual of a Mental Disorder. Mental disorder. DSM. Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of a Mental Disorder. Psychiatrist, psychologist. This is psychologist equal to therapy, testing, medicine. Psychologist and therapy but testing. Psychiatrist is medicine or MBBS. It is psychologist, therapy, testing. Assessment, main role of clinical psychologist है diagnose करो, therapy दबो, research, prevention. DSM stands for Diagnostic and Statistical Manual and Mental Disorder. Diagnostic, Statistical Manual of a Mental Disorder. Current DSM version होची DSM-5TR. Difference. Father of clinical psychology. Leitner, Whitmer. Father of clinical psychology होची. Clinical psychology definition होची diagnosis, treatment and prevention of mental disorder. First psychological clinical started psychological Pennsylvania 1896. Clinical psychology definition होची diagnosis करियो, treatment करियो and prevention and mental disorder prevention. Other of clinical psychology Leitner, Whitmer. Biopsychosocial model, clinical psychology, biological psychology. Difference clinical psychologist versus psychiatrist. Clinical psychologist versus psychiatrist. Major role of a clinical psychologist: assessment, diagnosis, therapy. Major roles of clinical psychologist होने. Major roles of clinical psychology होती है assessment करियो, diagnosis करियो, therapy करियो, research करियो, prevention. assessment and diagnosis. Assessment diagnosis करो, therapy, treatment, prevention, psychological assessment, systematic measurement करियो of behavior, cognition, emotion. Most used in intelligence test होची Western Adult Intelligence Scale. टेस्ट करियो वेस्टर एडल्ट इंटेलिजेंस टेस्ट होची वेस्टर एडल्ट वेस्लर इंटेलिजेंस टेस्ट फॉर चिल्ड्रन होची वेस्लर इंटेलिजेंस स्केल फॉर चिल्ड्रन वेस्लर इंटेलिजेंस स्केल प्रोजेक्टिव टेस्ट एग्जांपल वेस्लर इंटेलिजेंस स्केल फॉर चिल्ड्रन systematic measurement of behavior cognition emotion most used intelligence test reliability versus validity reliability consistency validity risk claims reliability versus validity consistency validity measures valid claims test ADST Connors rating scale state trait anxiety inventory BDI back depression inventory objective personality test Minnesota multiphasic personality inventory state trait anxiety inventory test for ADHD Connors rating scale neuropsychological test for Benders and Bender Gestalt listed written battery neuropsychological test reliability versus validity reliability means consistency and validity means measures consistency reliable validity means measure Western intelligence test positive test means research ink bolt blood test thematic apperception test objective personality test means MMPI Minnesota multiphasic personality inventory test for depression BDI back depression inventory test for depression means back depression inventory anxiety disorder माने GAD माने panic disorder বা phobia OCD full form माने major disorder obsessive compulsive disorder PTSD stands for post traumatic stress disorder post traumatic mood disorder माने major depression bipolar disorder symptoms of major depression or disorder weak slow mood anhedonia bipolar disorder माने type 1 2 cyclothymia schizophrenia positive symptoms माने hallucination delusion disorganized speech schizophrenia positive symptoms माने hallucination delusion disorganized speech bipolar disorder माने type 1 type 2 cyclothymic eating disorder anorexia nervosa bulimia nervous being eating borderline personality disorder feature unstable relationships self image impulsivity Borderline personality disorder. Personality disorder 3 clusters. Odd or dramatic anxious. Schizophrenia negative symptoms. Flat affect abolition. Social withdrawal. Flat affect abolition. Social withdrawal. Schizophrenia. Personality disorder होची odd or dramatic anxious. Borderline personality होची unstable relationship, self image, impulsivity. Bipolar disorder, tolerance withdrawal, failed control, ADHD, attention deficit hyperactive disorder, autism spectrum disorder, social communication deficit, restricted repetitive eating disorder ମାନେ anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa, binge psychoanalysis ମାନେ Sigmund Freud. Major technique in psychoanalysis: free association, dream analysis, transference. Method of psychoanalysis. Major technique in psychoanalysis: free association, dream analysis, transference. Group therapy advantage মানে cost effective, peer support, social learning. Cost effective, peer support, social learning. Group therapy. Roger 3 crore condition, empathy, unconditional positive regard. Humanistic therapy founder ମାନେ Carl Rogers. Client centered therapy, humanistic therapy ମାନେ major technique होची psychoanalysis, free association, मुक्त मिश्र association, dream analysis करिवो, transference. अदर behavior therapy होची ABF Skinner, John Watson. अदर behavior therapy technique for phobia. Systematic desensitization exposure. The systematic desensitization. Cognitive therapy founder होची Aaron Beck. CBT stands for cognitive behavior therapy. Thoughts plus behavior. Cognitive behavioral therapy. CBT stands for REPT founder Albert Ellis. Masturbatory thinking. Humanist therapy founder होची Carl Rogers. Client centered therapy. Behavior therapy technique of phobia. Systematic desensitization exposure. Systematic desensitization exposure. Cognitive होची Aaron Beck. CBT होची cognitive behavioral therapy. Thoughts behavior. Albert masturbatory thinking. Mental health care act.